how to spot a toxic person and protect yourself. A toxic person can creep into your life, destroy your self-esteem, and ruin your future. So, watch out. If you have people in your life who never support you, who always have something negative to say, or who are the first to point out your mistakes, then you know what a toxic person is. And being around someone like that can be completely exhausting. Today, we're going to explore what a toxic personality looks like. How can you recognize a toxic person? What are the 8 signs that will help you spot them? And most importantly, how do you deal with that kind of relationship? A toxic person could be your partner, a parent, a friend, or a co-worker. Any relationship with a toxic person is draining and negative. But there's often one thing that stops you from cutting all ties: guilt. When we talk about toxic people, they usually fall into one of 3 categories. The long-haul toxic person. This is someone who's been in your life forever. Maybe you went to school together, or perhaps you live next door. And because they've been around for so long, you feel guilty at the very thought of distancing yourself from them. The toxic person by association. This is often a friend of your partner, your parents, or your in-laws. In short, this is someone who is in your life by default. You didn't choose them, and you can't just get rid of them. The guilt comes from not wanting to be rude and feeling like you don't have the power to make them leave. The situational toxic person. This is usually someone you only see in one area of your life. For example, a co-worker or someone from your gym. You don't see them often, but you also can't escape them. And that's how the relationship becomes toxic. What is a toxic personality? Toxic, at least on social media, has become a catch-all term for people who are seen as negative, controlling, or cruel. It's also often linked with narcissism, another popular social media term that many don't fully understand. Toxic people leave you feeling uneasy, guilty, confused, frustrated, and overwhelmed. The trend seems to be on the rise, partly due to the isolation, relational pressure, and stress that came with the COVID-19 pandemic. However, the term toxic has specific connotations in the mental health world, according to Jen Kennedy, a licensed marriage and family therapist. She says toxic is a relational term that describes how one person affects another. A toxic person leaves you feeling unwell, anxious, guilty, confused, or frustrated. They don't have boundaries and they ask too much of you, so you leave interactions feeling drained. A toxic person makes assumptions, expects too much, and ignores you when you say no. Kennedy explains that the term became more widely known after Britney Spears released her song Toxic in 2003. She says that's when she saw the term's use rise in her own practice. The rise of the term toxic is because psychology has led us to examine our families of origin and our complicated, messy romantic relationships, Kennedy says. And now, with so much of our energy focused online, the term seems here to stay. What are the different types of toxic personalities? As you can see, spotting a toxic person can be complex. And to make things even more complicated, there are 7 main types. Type 1. The conversational narcissist. Have you ever talked to someone who constantly interrupts you? Let me rephrase that. Have you ever tried to talk to someone who won't let you get a word in? Conversational narcissists love to talk about themselves or just hear themselves talk. They don't ask you questions, wait for your answers, or ever seem to be quiet. In a relationship, these people will be completely self-centered and will never be attentive to your needs. Type 2. The straitjacket. The straitjacket is someone who wants to control everything and everyone around them. They want to be in charge of what you do, what you say, and even what you think. You know the type. They panic when you disagree with them and won't stop trying to convince you that they're right, and you should do what they say. In a relationship, this person will give you no room to breathe and will constantly harass you until you're in perfect agreement with them. Watch out, they will attack your emotional, conversational, and mental freedom until you have nothing left. Get out while you can. Type 3, the emotional vampire. An emotional vampire has a tendency to suck the positivity right out of you or bleed you dry emotionally. This type of toxic person always has something sad, negative, or pessimistic to say. In conversations and relationships, they can never see the bright side and tend to bring everyone down with them. If you're with someone who only has bad things to say every time you see them, be careful. It's not likely to get better. Type 4, the drama magnet. Some toxic people are drama magnets. There's always something wrong. Always. And of course, as soon as one problem is solved, another one pops up. They want your empathy, sympathy, and support, but not your advice. You offer help and solutions, but they never seem to want to fix anything. Instead, they complain over and over. In a relationship, drama magnets are perpetual victims who thrive in a crisis because it makes them feel important. If someone is a beacon for adversity, be careful. One day, you might become part of the drama. Type 5, the JJ, jealous and judgmental. The JJ is a person who is both jealous and judgmental. Jealous people are incredibly toxic because they have so much self-hatred that they can't be happy for anyone around them, and usually their jealousy comes out as judgment, criticism, or gossip. To them, everyone else is awful, uncool, or lacking in some way. If someone starts spreading jealous gossip about other people, watch out. They could be a toxic person, and you never know what they're saying about you behind your back. Type 6, the liar. Liars, fabricators, exaggerators. It's exhausting having a toxic deceiver in your life. Whether they're telling little white lies or huge whoppers, it's impossible to trust a liar in a relationship. Dishonesty wears us down because we're constantly doubting their words. If your gut is sounding the alarm, pay attention. Get out before you get lied to. Type 7, the tank. By its nature, a tank runs over everything in its path. This toxic person is always right, doesn't consider other people's feelings or ideas, and constantly puts themselves first. In a relationship, these types are incredibly arrogant and treat their personal opinions as facts. They often think they're the smartest person in the room and see every conversation and every person as a challenge to be won. They rarely see others as equals, which can be difficult when you're trying to build a loving partnership. If you feel like your ideas are being crushed or you're not being respected, get out while you still can. 8 signs to help you spot a toxic person. Sometimes people just aren't in a position to be a good friend or partner. Other times there's a personality clash that makes you bring out the worst in each other. But sometimes that person simply doesn't want what's best for you. Yes, it's horrible, but it's true. The next 8 signs will help you identify a toxic person. And honestly, whatever the case may be, if you're dealing with a toxic personality, it's time to run for the hills. 1. You feel emotionally drained after talking to them. You always leave feeling emotionally exhausted. After we spend time with some people, we feel uplifted, loved, or inspired. But you might notice that with other people, you walk away feeling completely drained. 2. They use intimidation to get their way. If you feel like you've been manipulated or bullied into making a choice that, on reflection, feels wrong or benefits someone else at your expense, it's worth asking if the person who pushed you into it is toxic. 3. They use guilt to control you. Guilt tripping sounds like this: if you loved me, you would do this. Or, you're my friend, so you're supposed to help me. Being emotionally pushed into doing something is another form of toxicity. If someone uses your care, love or goodwill against you for their own gain, they do not have your best interests at heart. 4. They are intensely jealous. A manipulative person is so jealous that they try to control their target in unhealthy ways. This one is tricky because toxic people often use fake boundaries as a means of control, then play the victim when those boundaries are crossed or disrespected. 5. They love to play the victim. Toxic people don't see themselves as toxic. If their actions backfire, they're happy to shift the blame to others and paint themselves as the victim. And they probably believe they are. 6. They've mastered the backhanded compliment. Even when a toxic person gives you a compliment, it has to have a negative spin. Sometimes toxic people in your life don't want you to feel good about yourself because it undermines their own confidence. They feel the need to belittle, put down, and humiliate others, even their friends, to feel better about themselves. They are always on the defensive. A toxic person has no problem making fun of their loved ones and turning them into the butt of a joke. But if you confront them or dare to make fun of them, they get angry. When the roles are reversed or when they're criticized, a toxic person does not handle it well. 8. They take far more than they give. Your friend agreed to come to your birthday party but spent the whole time complaining. They go on and on about the uncomfortable chairs at the restaurant you chose and aren't afraid to tell you they had a miserable time. You feel so bad that you end up buying them a gift card for a massage to make up for it. While it's easy to say your friend is just grumpy, if they regularly make everything about them, it's a sign they're a toxic person. How to deal with a toxic person. Even after learning the signs, you might still not know how to handle them. Here are a few ways to manage a toxic personality. Chapter 1. Be direct and speak up. Sometimes we're inclined to just accept the negative things a toxic person throws at us. We stay quiet because we don't want a difficult conversation or we hate confrontation. But you should always speak up and stand up for yourself. If you feel someone is putting you down or behaving in a toxic way, call them out on it. 2. Set boundaries. If you can't get rid of a toxic person completely, set firm boundaries and make sure they never cross them. Stay calm and clearly communicate your limits. 3. Make yourself a priority. Someone might be desperate for your help to get out of a bad situation or need your emotional support to cope with a traumatic event. While it's okay to help, you have to make sure you don't burn yourself out in the process. You may care deeply for this person, but don't offer your support at the expense of your own well-being. 4. Learn to say no. We often hesitate when it comes to saying no. Some of us have an innate desire to go above and beyond for the people we care about. For a toxic person, this is an opportunity for exploitation. You have to stand firm. If you don't agree with something, just say no. It may be difficult at first, especially if the toxic person throws a fit to get what they want. But the more you practice saying no to things that don't feel right, the easier it will become. How to get rid of a toxic person. Of course, I don't mean from the face of the earth, just from your life. The best way to deal with a toxic person is to remove them from your life, if possible. It's one thing to support someone through a tough time, but if you have someone who constantly manipulates you, puts you down, and makes you feel bad about yourself, it's time to let them go. This can be hard, especially if the toxic person is someone you love deeply. Here are a few steps to help you remove them from your life. Don't expect the person to change. Establish and maintain healthy boundaries. Don't get drawn into their crises. Acknowledge your own weak spots that they might exploit. Understand that they will likely resist. Choose your emotional battles wisely. Surround yourself with positive, supportive people.